Hello, everybody. It is the Dark Conservatarian, and welcome to Strike Force number 100. Yay, we've hit the big 100 now. This time it being an interview stream with Liberal Sanity Project. Introduce yourself, LSP.
Hi, I do liberal YouTube politics. I fucked up my first sentence, so that's already a good impression to leave with you guys. There's not much more to say about it than that.
All right. Yeah, and so it was just I was recommended by liberals, or no, it wasn't. I was recommended by Dead Horse.
Too.
Yeah. So I was recommended by a very dead horse that if I wanted more leftists in my Strike Force discussions group chat, that I ought to invite LSP. And I thought, and I just messaged him randomly, hey, do you want to get an invite into my group chat? And so I thought, better yet, how about we do an interview about this? That would be very interesting, especially somebody who has been like in the looking on the inside of the alt-right circles. That should definitely be a very interesting topic to talk about. But yeah, that's what by and large we're going to be talking about, along with asking LSP some questions about his own beliefs if we have time for that. I don't intend for this interview to go on for anything more than 2 hours, by the way.
Why not 4 hours?
4 hours?
When's the last time you did a 4-hour interview?
Unfortunately, I have work in the morning, so I don't know. I don't think that it'll go that long, but
yeah, you and me both.
We'll keep it. We'll keep it in the open if it's a possibility.
Yes,
I'm sharing this around on Twitter group chats, and now I'm going to share it around on Discord servers. Not any that are associated with Doxers, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for extending me that courtesy.
Yes. By all means, sir. I try to be courteous to my guests. It's just more friendly or more close ones. But anyway, so. I gotta ask you, first of all, like, what gave you the idea to come up with the name Liberal Sanity Project?
Oh man, I regret it. I don't know. I think it just sounded good. Like I really kind of okay. I had this naive, idealistic idea that perhaps I could restore sanity. Okay, so this is twofold. Liberals on YouTube tend to make bad arguments, in my opinion. And when I say liberals, I mean like liberal left, not Sargon fake liberals. I don't think they defend their positions very well. There are some that do a spectacular job of it, but mostly you get people like Kevin Logan or whatever.
Right.
And the other was I thought that I could like, I don't know, bring some degree of sanity to the Kevin Logans of the world, maybe. I can't. That was dumb. He doesn't like me, which is fine. Yeah, not much to it. It was a really stupid name, and it allows everybody to make jokes like, oh, liberal insanity, that's an oxymoron. And everybody thinks they're really original when they make that joke. So if I could, I'd change the name to something else, but I'm not very creative, and I'm stuck with this name now.
No, it's all right. I mean, I used to go by my own personal name on this channel. Then I changed it. Then I was introduced to the term conservatarian, which is basically a shortened out version of conservative libertarian. I was introduced to that by one of my close friends named S-Man Speaks, and I thought, hey, I wear a black pea coat with black sunglasses indoors and whatnot, so I thought, why not call myself call myself
it definitely works better than what I got. Well, it tells me everything about you right away. It's pretty good.
To my credit though, I have been given plenty of fun jabby nicknames, like the dark, like my shortened out nickname is just Dark Con. If people don't want to call me Zek, and because of that, people have nicknamed me as Dark Convict, Dark Conf, Dark Wing Cuck.
And, I think conservatarian would probably be the easiest.
Conservatarian? Well,
nobody else goes by that.
Yeah, well, for a while ago, there was this other YouTube channel that was called Sir Conservatarian, and so, I mean, it's still unique away from his name in that I call myself The Dark as opposed to Sir, but still.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of I kind of got the implication that your name, Liberal Sanity Project, was kind of an implication as to how people would say be too crazy when it comes to the issue of feminism, with some leftists in our modern society, for example.
To a degree, yeah.
And so you are one of those type of, I guess, socially centrist liberals who would be like, hey, feminists, third wave feminists, you're taking this too far. Hey, I don't believe in the, well, okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't know if you do believe in the gender spectrum or not, but I can only presume.
Yeah, I do. Like, I wouldn't describe myself as a feminist, but I can sympathize with feminist causes for the most part, because the Venn diagram of feminism and leftist liberal politics tends to overlap pretty heavily. That's not to say I agree with everything. That like, it really kind of depends on the feminist you're talking about. Like, if you're, I mean, there's some I like. I think it's everybody.
Classic first or second wave feminist.
Well, I mean, that's hard to disagree with, isn't it? Like, do you agree?
Yeah, no. I'm not saying that I disagree with that. I mean, if I was to refer to myself as an anti-feminist, I would have to like explain out to further. No, I'm not against women having equal voting rights.
I hate
it's just what.
Calling yourself an anti-feminist or an anti-SJW, which is a popular meme these days, tells me absolutely nothing about what your fundamental beliefs are. It doesn't. It's a just purely reactionary label that you can stick on yourself that generally just tells me you're just an asshole on the internet who likes to tell people the wage gap doesn't exist or something stupid like that. Like, it doesn't give me any insights to your actual politics.
By the way, did you say that you do actually believe in the political spectrum or something earlier? I don't know if there was a slip up in communication, but what?
Wait, I'm not sure I understand your question. Do I believe in the political spectrum?
No, the gender spectrum. Did I say political spectrum?
Oh,
I meant gender spectrum.
I think it's called a Kinsey scale, but yeah.
Like, believe literally that there are more than two, well, I won't use the word gender, but more than two sexes.
Yeah.
Biologically speaking.
No, not biologically, there's only male or female or intersex, I think. But that's a small sliver. But as far as gender identity, that's something that's your fashion. That's how you dress, right?
Right.
Some people don't identify with the outward appearance of a male, even though they are biologically a male. So they feel most comfortable in a female. It's a brain body mismatch called gender dysphoria. If you read some like psychology texts on this, you'll find that this is basically, I don't remember if it's called a Kinsey scale or not, but basically people's gender identity operates on a vast spectrum, and most people they occupy the extreme left or the extreme right. They're pretty comfortable identifying with whatever their sex is, right? But gender is cultural, and so you get some people who don't feel comfortable being boxed in where culture says their gender is supposed to be, so they occupy some weird place in the middle. Or they'll occupy the other extreme end. But I think that's backed by like psychology.
Yeah, I mean, I think you say people identify more somewhere in the middle. I think that the vast majority of people, well, not attaining to like gender, but when it comes to like politics, I think the super majority of people are somewhere in between far right and far left. But
I think that's true on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true in real life, but I think it's true on the internet.
Perhaps not. I don't know. I would think that even people who are like, defined as normies, they aren't necessarily like far right. Not all of them, or far left. I mean, particularly here in American politics.
Yeah, well, American politics is exceptionally conservative, even for the like liberal American is considered pretty far right in other countries. Justifiable or not, whatever.
Well, I would think that liberal is like a variation of center to center right to center left. I have heard people make arguments that you can be a somewhat of a conservative, but also believe in liberal values, thus defining you to be somewhat of a liberal. But liberal has been claimed to be left so many freaking times that people have just given the benefit of the doubt and just, it means leftist nowadays.
Well, I think what I think liberal values tend to occupy the left on the political spectrum, but this is an issue. Is liberal values is kind of like an ambiguous catch-all that can mean any different things to different people. I have no clue what liberal values are to you, and it could mean something entirely different than what it means to me. So why don't you tell me what liberal values are?
Me, the belief in like a sophisticated democracy, and I believe that the most sophisticated kind is republicanism, that being small r of a form of government republicanism.
Yeah.
That being one of them. And I think egalitarianism as well, meaning like equal rights for all the genders and the races and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I basically agree with that. Yeah, I think that is a pretty good description of liberal values. Basically, fairness, justice, and liberty for all.
Also, I want to kind of rewind a little bit back to political gender spectrum, because there's a comment that I wanted to make. I think the main thing that people get hung up on this debate is the fact that they call it a gender spectrum, and people think that gender is synonymous with sex, because I actually read an article that goes talking about why the word gender was invented, because people thought that the word sex, which is what gender used to mean, was just, you know, sex. The reason why they invented the word gender is because sex is a little bit of a dirty word. It can mean a noun, meaning of what biology that you are of, but it could also mean in the verb sense the type of action that you are doing, and that meaning, you know, vaginal penetration or whatever else. But I wonder as to why people don't call it just a personality spectrum, because I can definitely agree that there is a gender personality spectrum.
Well, that's all a gender is, right? Like, gender is just short for gender personality spectrum, isn't it? Like, what's the difference between gender and gender personality?
I've never truly understood it to be that way, but that is I mean, the issue of gender is not really a big, important issue for me. I mean, it's just, it quite bores me, to be quite honest.
Me neither, to be honest.
The big thing that kind of gets me going on it is when that people want to just call people transphobes just for having the slightest disagreement when it comes to gender or whatever.
Well, I think some people legitimately are transphobes. Like, if you're parroting a talking point to a trans person that there are only two genders, like, I mean, I don't know. What do you get out of that? Why?
If people are what?
Well, if you're parroting a talking point to like a transgender person or a gender non-binary person that there's only two genders, I guess I don't know. Why would you do that? Like, that just strikes me as something you'd only do if you were a transphobe. Like, it's really not a big deal.
I don't think that expressing disagreement with people on the idea that gender spectrum is transphobic. What I think transphobic is if people want to kill trans people, or even just legally prevent them from getting their transitions.
Oh, okay. Just those extremes, like nothing in between can be transphobic?
Perhaps like passionate harassment against them, like passionate, constant harassment, just saying, oh, you damn tranny or whatever, like just going out of your way on the internet to like call them names. But if you're just saying, I disagree with you on the gender spectrum, and here's why, I don't find that transphobic.
Well, it's never that simple. You've got politicians who actually like write into law that, you know, transsexuals can't use the bathroom they prefer. They have to use the one, you know, that corresponds with their biological sex assigned to them at birth. A lot of people find that like fundamentally uncomfortable and transphobic in nature, because you'll end up with women or people who identify as women, who dress as women, who look like women for all intents and purposes, ending up in the male bathroom because of it. Like, if that's not transphobic, what is?
If you're talking about legislation that is built to segregate the sexes or whatnot, I mean, are you arguably perhaps? Although I think of the approach that I take to that issue is let people, based on their private property rights, subjectively decide how they want to handle the whole bathroom issue.
That would be the small government Republican answer to that, right? The conservative answer.
Well, not necessarily even the Republican answer. It would be
it's not the Republican answer. I should say the conservative libertarian answer.
Yeah, it would be more along the lines of libertarian than it would be Republican, in my view. But anyways, weave off that a little bit, and you mentioned earlier of how that how Sargon is like a fake liberal.
Yep.
I will not I will not disagree with that. In fact, actually, quick comment on that. In one of his videos on his Thinkery channel,
Yeah,
he actually said, "What?"
He did the compass test.
I did not see that political compass test that he recently did. I have it in my watch later list, but what I was wanting to quickly say was that on his channel on the Thinkery, he said, "I guess I'm just a dead centrist now." He came out as just a dead centrist. I mean, if I'm not left, if I'm claimed to not be left by other leftists, well, then I guess I'm not left. I'm a centrist now.
Yeah, okay. I mean, he joined the UKIP. Like, I don't know who he's fooling with that, but maybe he's fooling himself. Like, more power to him. But I think when he said he was liberal, it was pretty clear he wasn't espousing anything that was remotely liberal in value, that he was pretty clearly a reactionary conservative. Like, everything he ever talked about was stuff reactionary conservatives would talk about or react to. He'd basically parrot their talking points. So I don't know. Maybe. But I mean, who am I to say who's liberal and who's not? I'm just a guy on the internet.
Well, you got liberal in your name. This guy here is the arbiter of liberalism and what it means. No, I'm joking.
The world would be a better place if I were its dictator.
Oh boy, don't we all think that amongst ourselves? Because
we do, and we're all stupid for thinking
that. Because humans are egomaniacs. So anyway, getting off of that, I mean, that was a long, drawn-out introduction for starters, but it's these side tangents can be kind of fun to go off of. But I wanted to make some comments about your Jean-Francois Gariepy debate that you had. Yeah. I had just finished listening to that. I was listening to it on and off all day at work, and then finished it up just now. And what I found to be utterly stupid was that he was calling himself a libertarian. I was thinking to myself, what?
My favorite part. He calls himself an individualist libertarian.
I'm sorry. Wasn't he more sympathetic towards Richard Spencer during that one live stream? And Richard Spencer was arguing exactly for collectivism.
Yep.
Although I did find out in a live stream with some other people responding to him that he kind of contradicted himself when it came to collectivism and individualism. I can't remember what was exactly said. That this being Richard Spencer, by the way, I can't remember what exactly he said, but he said something along the lines of he was arguing the whole stream for collectivism, but at the same time was arguing how white people value individualism. And it's like he completely shift tones. First you were arguing for collectivism, now it's individualism. Like, what the fuck?
How did I do in that debate? How do you think I did?
Oh, I think you did pretty good. One of the overall, I would say that you did great. I mean, especially making this statistical argument of how America got more diverse, within the last 40, 50 years or something like that. America's GDP and other economic stats have been better off than they have been before. But there is a one red flag though.
What'd I say?
That kind of raised up in my head of what you said. You were talking about the stats of when it comes to immigrants and crime. Just one thing that I wanted to clarify. Was you differentiating legal migrants from illegal immigrants when you were citing that?
No, I don't have to. The illegal immigrants and legal immigrant crime is both lower than native crime. If you like, I can provide you some sources on this. But yeah, I've studied this pretty extensively.
I would kind of dispute with that because I've read that. Well, I have no problem with legal migrants. I mean, that's where kind of something that me and alt-righters would differentiate from. I mean, I'm fine with.
I hope it'd be more than just that.
What?
I'd hope it'd be more than just that.
Disagreeing with all. Oh yeah. I mean, when it comes to ethnostatism in general, I mean, I guess that's the biggest thing. I mean, I cannot think of much more. I mean, the politicization of IQ, of like IQ averages. I don't fully disagree with that, but I don't wholeheartedly agree with it. I kind of give the benefit of the doubt, more or less, that it's true. But at the same time, it isn't genetic, is what I say. I mean, for example, I've heard the argument being made that sub-Saharan Black people, their IQ is lower than American-born and raised Black people. That kind of gives an implication there that it's more cultural, that IQ is more culturally influenced than it is actually biologically or genetically influenced. I mean,
Okay.
granting that IQ averages are true, there's still that caveat there.
Okay, I don't know which one I respond to. Do I start with the immigrant crime thing or to go to the IQ thing?
I don't know. Well, take your pick. But as although I do kind of want to finish what I was wanting to say about when it came to immigration, like illegal immigration in particular. Like I have read before. I'll have to like find that stat actually saying that illegal immigrants have a higher homicide rate than legal citizens.
Whew, that is absolutely not true. I mean, I welcome you to provide me a source that says otherwise, but I'm like 100% sure that's absolutely not true.
It was sourced from the General Accountability Office.
Can you get me the specifics on it? I'm pretty
one
familiar
second.
with the stats, but I'll look for it.
I mean, I think it was something like for illegal immigrants, it was like I don't know, something in the range of 30. Okay, they were actually measuring it more in a 10-year period. So it was like 2004 to 2014 or something like that. So they aren't that new, but still. And here I'm trying to like.
I'm just curious. Between 2004 and 2014, did illegal immigrants commit more murders than natives?
Yeah, that was what the source was saying.
All right, well, shoot it to me. I'd love to go over it. In the meantime, I sent you something that's a meta-analysis from, like, if you study this more, you're going to find like common names. Walter Ewig and Ruben Rumbaut are both two of the leading sociologists who study immigrants and crime, immigration and crime. And from what I sent you, you could just read the abstract. I mean, you don't have to go into the data unless you really want to, but this holds true for both legal immigrants and unauthorized, regardless of their country of origin or level of education. And the sentence before that is immigrants are less likely to commit serious crimes or be behind bars than native born, and high rates of immigration are associated with lower rates of crime. So, I mean, I've basically found that consistently with like every other source. But if you've got like, send me the GAO thing. Like, I'm serious. I'd love to go over that.
Trying to like grab the.
Like, if you can prove me wrong, please. I'll update my videos, and I'll credit you for it.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Are you on your computer or are you on your phone?
I'm on my computer.
Okay, you're on your computer, so I'm sending it in the group chat here and not in. Well, I can send it in DMs too, I guess.
Whichever. American Thinker. Okay, let's see this.
Well, they are citing off stats off of the from the GEAO, that being General Accountability Office, I think is what it's called.
I love this already. It's time to fact check the fact checkers. Okay.
Okay. So okay, I want a wrench, you tool, says Brandon Paget. Okay.
Okay, I'm already gonna be like have an issue with this, but all right.
All right, Loudmouth Reviews says, "Oh yeah, I remember when he was saying libertarianism was compatible with an ethno state."
Loudmouth Reviews is there. Hello, Loudmouth Reviews. Let me see. I gotta go chat. Hi, Loudmouth Reviews. I like arguing with you on Twitter. We never agree. It's fun.
Which is an absurd position because personal liberty requires freedom of association. Talking about JF. All right. Sure. Add. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, I did not know of how much that you and Loudmouth get along, but that's interesting. You guys almost never get along.
Dude, he is my butt buddy. No, we haven't spoken much, but when we do speak on Twitter, it's usually just bants. Like I don't hate him or anything, like nothing like that.
since we are currently on the issue of immigration, and then I guess once you answer this question, you can address the concerns that you have with IQ. Because if you can debunk average IQs, well, then and make a very solid argument for it more than Kraut on the surface has, well, then I'm all ears. But anyway, on the issue of immigration, like, are you for immigration control, border control at all?
Yes, but
you're not part of the open borders crowd. Is
I
my
am
more
increasingly
specific.
becoming more open borders. Like, there's a major asterisk next to the but. Like, I think I would be hard pressed to be argued for any kinds of controls. The only thing I could rationalize is, well, I mean, like having more ports, basically, so that you can screen for drugs. But beyond that, I can't imagine any possible drawback to like immigration. Well, I can, but I think all the benefits overwhelmingly outweigh the drawbacks. So I don't understand why we should be against them.
Don't want to like vet the people coming in to see of who are the felons of a former of a country that they're coming from and so forth.
You can if you want, but traditionally felons don't come here. Like, legal or illegal, tradition. Well, I mean, I know this is a point of contention. Well, we don't have to visit that, but by and large, as far as I can tell, immigrants don't commit crime.
That's a rather broad brush statement right there. Broad stroking statement right there.
Well, do you want to say Hispanic immigrants? Like, what? How do you want to narrow this down?
I'm not one to like narrow it down to specifically Hispanics. I just want to like look at the data when it comes to illegal immigrants in general is my thing.
Well, I provided you a meta-analysis. If you want, I can dig through some sources and find you more things.
Okay, let me go ahead and click on that, I guess. I haven't actually clicked on it. Let me see.
Yeah, and I can give you another separate one for Ruben Roombout that he did for the Police Foundation. More or less said the same thing.
Okay. You said that immigrants do not commit crime, but even by your own earlier admission, you said that they commit crime at a lower rate than native citizens, but you did not say none at all.
When I said immigrants didn't commit crime, I don't mean they literally have never committed crimes ever since they've been here. Like, obviously, they commit crimes every year. I mean, if I got to be this specific, immigrants tend to commit crime at a far lower rate than natives. That's what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that at some later point. Because this is not particularly a research stream. It's more of an interview stream than anything, just asking questions.
Yeah, just get, we'll trade some stuff and I'll read what you got. You read what I got.
Not necessarily a debate stream, but anyway.
Pussy.
What?
Nothing.
Well, fuck you, whore.
Yeah, I was really nervous about that JF debate. And I got, for some reason, everyone's like, "Oh, you were smug." It's like, fuck, JF was smug. Like, he started by like, "Oh, your brain's stuttering." Like, fuck you, JF. Like, what? I don't know.
You want to talk about like you want to talk about smug? Actually, there's at one point where he was all like, "I am sorry to all you black folk. I would like us white people to stop oppressing you." And that
wasn't even like my point. He just completely veered off on that on his own.
No, well, that wasn't even the issue that I was having. The issue that I was having was it sounded so freaking fake. Like,
yeah,
it just sounded like sarcasm.
He's not. He's not actually sorry. But I don't care if he was or wasn't. Like, that wasn't my point. He wanted to he didn't want to address my point. So he just went on to that. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, blacks. We should be segregated so no more whites can oppress you." Like, what? Fuck off. Like, that was so disingenuous. He knows that's not what I was talking about, but that's where he went anyway. Like, that's the kind of shit that pisses me off. So, I mean, I'm smug. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I just noticed that your buddy Classy Liberal is
boot him
is in the chat. What?
Boot him. Time him out for 500.
Why? Just to troll him or something?
No, I don't. We're not buddies. Time him out, or I'm leaving this chat.
What?
I'm dead serious. Time Classy Liberal out, or I'm leaving this chat. Did you delete his message? I was kidding. Wait, did you delete him or did he delete him?
I clicked put user in timeout. I think I did. I just okay.
He's in timeout now.
Everybody in the chat, press 1 if DarkCon has been master trolled.
Once he gets his chat back, or he's gonna call me on Discord or something. I don't know. He'll figure a way to get back to me though. That's hilarious. I love you, Classy. I was kidding. No, I wasn't kidding. I was really trolling you.
Knights just says
cool dude.
One.
Classy sometime. He actually does something similar to what you're doing here. He basically does a interview channel. This is probably him messaging me. Yep, that's him messaging me. You're a dick. Yeah.
Hello, Red Feather, in the chat.
Sorry about that. We got derailed.
That was good. That was funny.
Yeah.
But there was something else that I wanted to mention. Dang it. Something about JF's like accent as well. It just sounds like a movie villain type accent right there. Like his voice is not comforting in the absolute least bit.
Yeah, he kind of is. Kind of
very like creepy that. Dude.
Yep.
I feel like there's something else. Oh well, whatever. Moving on. So some questions that I kind of had about Ethan Ralph, if you don't mind us like segue into that. So what I have seen about Ethan Ralph, like, okay, originally I had defended his stance or his positioning on YouTube when it came to the whole WSJ kills kids hashtag. I kind of have my mind changing progressively about that whole issue. I mean, if he is like proven to be a doxer, well then I would he himself. Well, then I would say definitely he does deserve his social medias to be taken down and so forth. But if he's only like around doxers and apathetic to doxers, well, then I would not say outright that, yeah, he should be kicked off of social media. But at the same time, I couldn't care less because he's not policing his own platforms to prevent that kind of shit from happening. But one thing that I haven't seen clearly was any evidence of he himself personally doxing anyone. Which was kind of what the title of your one video that I had seen, which I'll get you that link where I saw the
Ethan Ralph is a doxer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole Ethan Ralph is he himself is a doxer. Is there any actual evidence of he himself doxing?
So it depends on what your definition of dox is. One evidence you get is the Washington Post interviewing him after he got arrested for punching a police officer. And they confronted him about doxing Brianna Wu. Ethan Ralph never denied doxing Brianna Wu. He defended himself by saying, well, everything I put out there was just public information anyway. So that's one. There's also leaked Skype logs of him doxing somebody, but I can't remember where those are. That might be something I'd have to send you later.
Yeah, I would definitely send me like the screen cap or something, because if that's the case, well then I would say at this point, yeah, fuck the Ralph retort.
Do you consider posting somebody's nudes on a website when they don't want you to post those nudes to be doxing?
Probably not technically, but it still is an invasion of privacy. Well, definitely.
I would argue those could probably be counted as a dox. I mean, you'd have to. I definitely find, but he posted somebody's nudes on his website.
I guess if this was to fall under anonymity, like say you did not reveal your face beforehand, and then they reveal your face via sending your nudes out, well then I would say that I guess it is doxing, like doxing your physical features and so on and so forth. But I definitely would say name dropping when they were trying to like remain anonymous in the first place, and definitely revealing addresses. That's when it gets particularly dangerous, because the person can like call the police and say, hey, there's this address of where a crime is happening, thus they get swatted. Telephone numbers, that's a bad story as well. Suddenly you're getting like spam called from a whole bunch of basement dwelling trolls who have no better time on their hands than to just give shit to family members of the people that they hate, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand. there's another element to, like, there's a really devious way he does end up doxing people, but not without doing it like directly. One is
Yes, I know, classy liberal. I'm a dumbass.
how you doing, friend? One thing he does is he surrounds himself with people who will do the doxing for him, so he never really has to directly dox anybody anymore.
Right.
And this allows for some kind of plausible deniability, but it's a constant theme with dealing with Ethan Ralph. Is if you fuck with Ethan Ralph, you're gonna get your dox. Somebody's gonna find your information, put it out there. There was when his website was up. Well, I'm sorry, his website still is. When his forums on his website was up, it included several doxes posted on the forums, including the home address of Jared Holt and phone numbers and stuff like that, as well as Tonkasaw, I think, but I can't remember. I'd have to go look for through our evidence archives. But this is stuff that I think Ethan could be. I think that it's pretty safe to argue that Ethan's accountable for. Like, this is his site. This is going on under his thing. He eventually took it down, but what does it say about him that this is the kind of environment he fosters in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shitty thing that he would be platforming all these doxes. I mean, if he really wanted to be a responsible person that people could at least mildly respect, he would for one thing, change of who his chat moderators are, because I've seen a video by Nicolas Diorio, which that's another person that I want to ask questions to you about. Nicolas Diorio showing screen caps of in his chat, in his live chats, that you would have people be sending out doxes right in front of chat moderators is one example.
One of our friends is actually the ones who confronted Ethan Ralph about that and told him outright that people were doxing Kraut's mother in his YouTube chat in front of mods, and nothing was happening. And Ethan Ralph blocked the person who was telling him. So, stand up, guy.
Yeah. As if.
Yeah.
Yep. Tonka and his family. You know what? I cannot really pity Tonka because he's apparently being proven as a pathological liar. Okay, this is me reading the chat, by the way. Red Feather is the one who said that. About Diorio, though, he is one of the first people that I've seen actually say that you will not. That chances are that you will never ever come across a time of when that Ethan Ralph himself personally doxes anybody, but he's rather sneaky about his doxing. He'll direct other people.
Yeah, these days he is. I mean, you can go check the Southern Poverty Call Center Discord right now. You still have names like Negro Joe in it, who's posted Mundane Matt's docs several times.
Negro Joe, that isn't one of his own alternative accounts, is
nope,
it?
That's one of his doxer fanboys.
Okay. I mean, I think the one about Brianna Wu would definitely be a damning piece of evidence to prove that of how he himself is a doxer, or if not at least a one-time doxer. It doesn't mean
you like me to get the article for you?
What?
Would you like me to get the article for you? As a Washington Post article.
Oh yeah, that would be good. I mean, I don't particularly trust Washington Post, but I will definitely take it with a grain of salt. At least
you don't have to. It's Ralph's own words here. Like this, they asked him for comment. And he didn't deny doxing Brianna Wu. He just defended it.
Oh wait, I think that might be the same article that Tizzy shared in his debate against Rin.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, this guy has been at it for a while.
Oh yeah. I mean the stories about him and his doxes have only skyrocketed ever since WSJ kills kids.
Yep. Good riddance.
Yeah, I'll say, especially with how much more and more damning this is.
And that's the article.
Okay. Twitter. Okay, I see. Thanks a lot, LSP. So yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about Nicolas Diorio, except there was one comment that he made about David Sherratt. What I found interesting about Diorio's particular video talking about Ethan Ralph and his apathy towards doxing, if not outright doxing. was the fact that he, like, even he, an anti-Ralpher, mentioned that David Sherratt, another anti-Ralpher, is actually a liar. Because I heard of how that David Sherratt had forged screen caps, but then I got that kind of that confirmation from an another anti-Ralpher.
So Nicolas Diorio doesn't have the same access to, like, I'm sure he's got his own little evidence archive with the crew he runs with, but basically we're in a chat, like a large chat where we dumped all the stuff, the evidence. One of the people who dumped the evidence of the my paste bin work thing pulled it from the lolcow image board on 8chan, and then went searching for the actual post in Ralph's Discord when it was still up. Since we couldn't find the actual post, we like put an annotation on that, like basically this might be faked. Now, when David was compiling his video, he grabbed the screen cap of the faked one. He either didn't read the message or I don't know. He screwed up somehow. But he didn't fake the screen cap. We're pretty sure somebody from 8chan did. Who knows? But
okay,
yeah, David fucked up in including that. But I don't think that's. I like how everyone's pinning like the entirety of the evidence David presented on that one thing. Like, it really is sad that he included that, because otherwise it was a pretty solid case that Ethan Ralph's consistently doxed and false flagged, or people from his crew have. David's not like, David doesn't make shit up. He's not going to make up evidence. He's too spurred to make up evidence. Like, he'll give away his own game if he even tried, which you could argue he did. But
right.
I mean, Nicolas Diorio hates him, but David's actually cool.
What about Diorio hates him?
I know Diorio hates him, but David's actually cool.
Okay. Well, I would have to take that with a grain of salt, because I'm sorry, but I've heard nothing but bad things about David. I mean, that's no offense to you or anything.
But, yeah, well, I'm sure you ask enough people, you only hear bad things about me too.
Well, oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure, but I at least haven't heard anything compelling to say that you are like a liar, at least. I mean, people will say, hey, LSP is he's disagreeable, his logic is crackpot, or whatever else, but yeah, that none of that is as bad as being called a liar and being kind of, well, proven, to put it hyperbolically, a liar.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. I don't think David's a liar. I actually think David's a bit of an unsung hero, but he's got a reputation, and I understand that.
Yeah. Nicolas Diorio was all like, somebody put a David Sherratt's friends ought to put a muzzle on this guy because he isn't helping the cause or something like that.
Well, he seems to think that like we all work in concert with David. David kind of does his own thing. Like we all do. Like everyone thinks we're like a giant rolling crew that work together to dox and harass and all this other shit they've made up about Kraut. That's not really the case. Basically, we just work on videos and tend to work on them pretty separately from each other.
Right. Although
I mean, I just made a response video to Sargon. Kraut didn't have a say in anything I just did.
Right. And I don't think Diorio, or, well, actually, I'm pretty sure that David Sherratt has, but I don't think Diorio, of all people, is going to make a response video to Sargon anytime soon.
I don't know. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. I don't have a problem with Diorio. I mean, as far as I can see, he's a cool dude. I mean, he's probably got a different opinion than me, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, but there seems to be a common theme here, is that you're all a bunch of anti-alt-writers and, well, anti-Ralphers.
Yeah. Well, that's because the intellectual wing of the alt-right is dead, and it's basically just the Ralpher sort now.
Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, Richard Spencer's star has kind of fallen ever since the aftermath of the Spencer v. Sargon debate has kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
Like, in the aftermath of that stream, you had a video after video, like particularly by the one channel called Kronos, that would be doing nothing but praising the guy and other alt-writers.
Sargon should just stay away from debate.
Yeah, he really should. I mean, I've seen his debate with Christy Winters. It really wasn't the best. And even though I am just going off of the opinion of Rin Michaelis on this, I mean, I've heard that he was shit with Richard Carrier. I mean,
Yes.
he definitely was a jackass. I think he was an asshole to Contra Points. I mean, I don't think that Sargon did particularly bad in his argumentation and the information he was bringing about to Contra Points, but I think that he was just having a bad attitude towards Contra Points during that stream.
I mean, it happens to us all. I was actually surprised that Dead Horse recommended me to you. Like, we actually exchanged jabs, like bants. Like, I don't hate the dude, but we've debated a few times. I've lost my shit with him a few times. Like, I've gotten like legit mad because of the way he was arguing. But like, I don't hate the dude. I just found it was weird he recommended me to you. Like, how much does he hate you? He's gonna do this.
Well, I have actually seen a Dead Horse. He would like he has almost this kind of passive aggressive kind of attitude. I mean, particularly towards Owen McDonald, a socialist, but I think that his passive aggression is kind of called for considering the type of personality that Owen Cunt Donald has. I call him Cunt Donald because I've had my name dragged through the mud by his smug ass.
I've never spoken to Owen. I mean, I know of him. I doubt he knows.
Don't
I'll avoid it.
For your own sanity, just don't. But anyway, yeah, I had a stream against him on Saturday. He was like calling it a discussion stream supposedly, but then it turned into a full-on cage match, I guess one could say. I think I definitely completely. I mean, the general consensus is, and I don't think I'm giving myself a big head in this. Destroyed him in the abortion segment. In the racism segment, I did not present myself well. I wasn't being direct enough with addressing the questions and so on and so forth. I mean, that was.
Would you rather debate that or an alt-righter?
What?
Who would you rather like deal with the information from? Would you rather deal it with the socialist information from Owen McDonald or an alt-righter?
I think with a socialist, because at least I know the arguments and the way that I can like come about those better.
Yeah.
That I mean, they're crazier, I think. I mean,
but you can always trust the information a socialist gives you to be socialist.
Right.
The alt-right are clever, unfortunately.
Right. I mean, especially with the way that they'll present an argument when it comes to race. I mean, it's not like really it's not really like they have much of an argument when it comes to economics. I mean, I know that economics was a good portion of your debate against Gariepy, but still, they don't seem to care that much for economics
because it's a losing topic. Like if they try to sift out any information on that, okay, when it comes to the information they sift out on economics, and if you go through it, you know, if you do get to it clearly, you're going to find the source is bad or the source is good, but it's loaded with way more caveats than they're letting on. And when it comes to somebody like the alternative hypothesis, there's almost this kind of an odious Kafkaesque tone to his website that makes it intimidating for the average person to approach. You have to be able to deconstruct this stuff, and I think the average person can't, because it's like a gish gallop of shit nobody's ever going to know. And it's loaded with way more caveats. And if you watched my video on like what the alt-right get wrong on immigration, I go through some of those caveats. Those are pretty major caveats, like immigrant welfare use isn't like the source they'll use for immigrant welfare use will measure immigrant welfare use by immigrant household instead of by immigrant individual, and that like inflates the numbers. Like that's just an example of one of these tricks they play. But they employ a lot of rhetorical tricks in their debate. Like they'll inflate different stats between criminality in different races, for example, and they'll conflate it with the criminality with immigrants from that race. But these are not comparable numbers, right? A black Nigerian comes from a completely different background and a completely different culture than a black American, and that difference in environment that they're brought up in is going to result in different outcomes when one comes to this place, right? Like a black Nigerian's rate of criminality is below that of a black American's, but they'll compare the two anyway.
Right.
So that's but they can be a little bit tricky, is what I'm saying.
There's actually a comment made by Red Feather here in the chat saying the race stuff is actual science. If it were white supremacy, wouldn't they say whites have the highest IQs? No. And I guess that's the biggest reason as to why that I kind of give the benefit of the doubt when it comes
claims, and they're both problematic. One is the biological reality of race, and the other is the validity of IQ. Now, there's an issue just on the premise that race is real. So this goes back to some years, but a biologist named R.C. Lewontin measured something called a fixation index, distance between races, what we classify as races. And he basically found that more variation in terms of genetic fixation index exists within races than between races. And this meant that you have more in common with a black sub-Saharan African than you do with a fellow white American, right? That you're the genetic distance between you and another white American is actually greater because it's not all just measured by skin color. So this wound up being more it gets like kind of scoffed at by the alt-right as more variation within than between, and it's called Lewontin's fallacy, but it's not a fallacy. But basically the argument is, if there are no set number of races, and this ends up being a social category, what is the point of trying to say that we're all biologically distinct? Like it's a bait and switch to say we're biologically distinct. Of course we are. We're just not so distinct that it justifies classifying one group of people as a subspecies and another group of people as a subspecies. And that's the issue. Do I go to the IQ stuff, or do you want to tackle that?
Well, no. I mean, you make an interesting point when it. I mean, I don't know. I'd have
That's
to like
a lot to digest. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot to digest. I would have to like listen to it verbatim again for me to like fully digest it.
Well, let's try this. How many races are there?
I don't know. Are we like measuring by color or something?
You can measure by whatever you want. That's kind of the issue. Like if there race real, like I'm going to quote JF here, race realism makes no declaration about the number of races that exist. JF himself said it could be 600, it could be 6,000. So that kind of makes it like a meaningless category to have. How are they able to identify the race of bones based on DNA? Are they able to identify the race of bones based on DNA? Like, race is a social category. Like you can group people into races, sure. It just doesn't necessarily confer with it any meaning. And I think I told this to JF when I gave him the example of like the redhead race. Like, why couldn't you justify making a race of redheads? Why couldn't you justify classifying redheads as their own distinct subspecies? Like the issue isn't that you can't just separate people into different races. You can. The issue is that you can do it so many different ways that it doesn't really carry with it any kind of weight. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have meaning. There's not enough variation to really justify doing it.
Right. There was like I remember the comment that I was wanting to make about the Gariepy debate, by the way, or at least your reposting of it. You like had a clip at the end of where he's reading your bio, and supposedly he's reading that, oh, you lied to me. You are actually Jewish when you told me that you weren't. When I could tell right off the bat, I was like, wait, what? This is a troll. Yeah, it's a joke. This is a troll bio right here. He says
12% Jewish. Like 12, that should have been the giveaway.
12% Jewish, a doxer, even though you're clearly outspoken against doxing. And what was the other comments made? Here, I'm gonna pull it up.
And doxer, and I don't remember. It was all sorts of really goofy, stupid stuff. But it was pretty clearly a joke. And I couldn't even tell him. He blocked me from everything. He blocked me from his YouTube chat. He banned me from his show. I'm not allowed. Like, it's all, yeah, I'm blocked from everything.
Another funny thing, it says, don't debate me, even though clearly you have debated plenty of people.
Yeah, I've got a lot of debates under my belt.
Juice will not replace us. Like, that was an obvious joke right there.
Oh, that must be that French white supremacist IQ at work right there. That high IQ content, just
blocked by literally everyone.
Well, that one's not a joke. I can send you the screen cap. I'll actually send you the screen cap of my block list. Like, I mean, of the people who've blocked me.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, I don't know if I would have the time to be able to actually go through all that, but I'm just gonna take your word for it that yeah, you're blocked by a crap ton of people.
Yep.
But hey, so speaking of the alt-right, like we were, and like weaving this, connecting it back to Ethan Ralph, like one thing that I hear commonly is that people like to say, or imply at least, that Ethan Ralph himself is an alt-righter, even though I've heard clips of him saying that he is not alt-right. He definitely is, though, in my observation, a partisan right-wing hack, because he has a policy of never punch right, only punch left, don't call out your own side, and so on and so forth. I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? Partisan hackery at its utmost best. But I haven't seen any actual evidence of him like proclaiming to be an alt-righter. In fact, he claims that he's not an alt-righter. But I would definitely say, like, if we could like find a clip or whatever of him saying that he would like to see a white ethno-state himself, well, then I would say that that would definitely outweigh his claims.
You could,
but what?
Yeah, you could read the Washington Post article where he says, I'm quoting him, "If you want to call me alt-right, that's probably fair." That's Ethan Ralph's own words.
Well, cognitive dissonance much?
I don't know.
But I was just kind of curious if there was like any...
Without a difference.
I was just curious, though, if there was like any clips of him actually saying, I believe that we need a white ethno-state or something like that, or a whites-only immigration policy, etc.
I'm not sure, but I don't understand what the difference would be if he's going to constantly host these people and take their money. Like, what's this like saying, I'm not part of the mafia, I'm just the guy who launders their money? Like, no. Like, you're working with them.
Well, my thing is in that would be setting yourself up to be called out for a guilt by association fallacy.
Sure.
And that's like one of the issues that I've been having with Ren Michaelis. I mean, you probably don't know this, but there was like a crap ton of drama that we got in with her.
I saw some of it. Yeah, she's not really free speech because she reported somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you did not by chance see my 14-minute video on that, have you?
14-minute video? I didn't see your 3-hour stream. I wasn't going to sit through that. Sorry.
No, it was a 5-hour stream.
That's too long for me.
I have like a 2-hour stream of where like we're originally talking about this, and then later on. Free
speech.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand what free speech is. Like, I don't mean this as an insult to her. I don't really know her well enough to insult her. Well, I'm going to say it as an insult. She's too stupid. She doesn't understand what free speech is. Like, and I don't mean like that as a knock on her, but when she's saying things like we need an internet bill of rights to force companies to platform ideas they don't want, that's anti-free speech. That's the opposite of free speech, but she doesn't understand that.
Whoa.
She's actually got it backwards, but that's fine.
So you're against an internet bill of rights?
I don't know what that even is.
What I've understood the idea of an internet bill of rights to be is that basically that would force companies to keep people on, well, to not boot people off of their platforms just because of a disagreement on politics. Like,
why?
say, for what?
Like, why would I even want that? Just run your website the way you want.
Okay, so the liberal is not as liberal as I thought he was.
Why would I force somebody to platform? I don't want Nazis on Twitter. Like, that's like if you want your every website to look like Gab, like you know Gab, right?
Yeah, it was like majority alt-right.
Yeah. Or if you want every chat to look like Ethan Ralph's chat, pass the Internet Bill of Rights. That's what you'll get. But I personally don't like seeing swastikas spammed at me every day.
Yeah. By the way, there isn't like a whole bunch of background noise coming from me, is there?
No, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, because for some reason the icon, I do not know why it is. It does not want to revert back to you. I'm like actively clicking on your profile picture to reference that you're the one speaking. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, when it comes to like internet, I of course am a libertarian in that I believe that websites, by the principle of free speech, should allow basically all political beliefs to be people of all political beliefs to speak on their platform, as long as they aren't making any death.
I generally agree with that. I think for the most part, everybody can speak on the platforms. Like, every time somebody tries to open up a hold up a martyr who's been slaughtered at the altar of free speech from one of these websites, they've always like flagrantly violated the rules in some way. Like, I don't know, what you really have to scrape bottom of the barrel for some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but
I don't know
what I also want to say is that even though I want by principle internet companies and websites to allow all political beliefs to be allowed on their platforms, by practice, though, as a libertarian, I also believe in private property rights and that you can like boot anyone that you want off of your platform.
And free association, right?
Yeah, I mean, it works both ways. I think freedom of association and private property rights are essentially the same when it comes to right to deny service.
Yeah, I more or less agree. Yeah,
I've heard it framed both ways, and I think they're both not illegitimate. What I also find to be a legitimate way, well, not as legitimate. I mean, it's more it kind of fuzzies up the debate is when that people bring in religion when it comes to right to deny service. Like, as a Christian myself, I can definitely sympathize with a Christian who doesn't want to cater out to, say, a gay person. I mean, I personally am leaning towards that homosexuality is not a sin according to the New Covenant, but that's another issue in of itself. But I can sympathize with a person that if, according to their own religion, they think that homosexuality is a sin, thus they don't want to cater to that sin by catering to their wedding. I think that is a legitimate argument as well. But at the same time, it then gets into a huge religion argument. It just confuses up the debate. So I find it easier to argue right to deny service based off of private property.
Okay, would you argue the same right by race? I'm curious.
Sorry, what?
I'm just curious if you're consistent. Would you make the same principle apply to race? Like, if instead of it being gay, you didn't want to serve blacks?
Yes.
Okay. Well, at least you're consistent.
Yes, alt-righters can deny black people. Black nationalists can deny white people. Hebrew Israelites can deny, well, pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
And et cetera, et cetera. Atheists can deny Christians, just everybody, basically. This is pretty much something that I have been talking about, like that I've been standing for the past 2 years on my YouTube channel, I'd say. But anyway, we gone off on kind of a large tangent. That was kind of one of the issues that was actually debated between Tizzy and Rin as well in their debate. But I do got one question. You actually mentioned that originally it was supposed to be you to debate against Rin, and then she muted you or something like that. I wish.
Yeah, we were trying to set that up. Tizzy was going to try and talk to her and see if we can include me, but yeah, I guess I didn't. She hated me. Like, she muted me, didn't want to talk to me. But I don't know why. Like, Tizzy and I were saying the exact same thing. We weren't saying anything different.
Yeah, that is quite odd. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's maybe because you actually made videos against Ethan Ralph or something. I mean,
oh yeah,
Rin. Okay, there's no evidence to say that Rin actually likes Ethan Ralph as a person or anything like that. I mean, if we were to be,
thread was about Ethan Ralph. I think there's tons of evidence.
Okay. But then again, she'll probably be all like, "I'm only defending her his freedom of speech is all that I'm doing," or something like that. Yeah. I mean, if we were to like talk about her and her, I guess, admiration, to put it hyperbolically, of Ethan Ralph, she'll probably just say, "No, I don't actually admire the guy. I just listen to his show from time to time to get caught up on the news, and I also defend his freedom of speech. That's it. That doesn't mean that I actually like himself, and it doesn't mean that that I am as much of a partisan right-wing hack as him or whatever, yada yada yada." So just say, "I only defended his free speech," or something along those lines.
Well, the idea of her going to Ralph for her news is frightening.
But at the same time, one could almost presume with the way that she's acting when it comes to freedom of speech and viciously defending Ethan Ralph, that if she's just trying to like cozy up to Ethan Ralph for the possibility of raking in those alt-right views, you know?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put it past her. Oh,
I
I
mean,
should say that. I don't know her well enough. I know she hates me, so we'll leave it at that.
I will add the caveat that I do not know for certain if that's actually the case right there. It's just I don't know, I guess a theory, one could say. I mean, why else would she be acting inconsistent with her freedom of speech? And Ryan Howe actually brings up in the chat saying, Rin flagging Common Sense Guy does bring up questions about her standard of free speech. That is, yeah, and Brandon Patchett says that he just got blocked by Rin today. And so have I and my buddy S-Man Speaks. I mean, she's been on a bit of a more of a blocking spree, I guess. But yeah, about of how inconsistent she is being with her free speech principle. Like she seems to be biased, I don't know, against Common Sense Guy because she flagged him to the point that he got a 12-hour suspension, which that ain't a big deal. I'll actually have to like link you the video talking about this, the 14-minute video of how it began, because I guess it was like a discussion between Common Sense Guy and Rin Michaelis talking specifically more about anti-feminism and anti-capitalism. Or something like that, and then Rin just reported him supposedly because
it was a joke or trolling or something.
Yeah, because well, that's one of the motivations she likes to bring out. Actually, that's the main motivation that she claims, because she just wanted to troll him, which you do not destroy. Well, I'm being kind of okay, so to speak. You do not destroy somebody's rights or abilities for the sake of your own trolling. There's no way that you can be consistent with your free speech principle if you're like willfully damaging their position.
Really? We timed out Classy Liberal earlier.
What?
Well, we timed out Classy Liberal earlier.
Well, yeah. So that's my bad, but at least I did not like flag his channel to the point that he got kicked off. I mean, that's a different, that's a little bit of a, I mean, there is like a amount of scale when it comes to the differences of these actions that people can take. I mean, it wouldn't be anti-free speech if she was to, like, say, for example, kick Common Sense Guy out of her own group chat. I mean, assuming if they ever were in the same group chat with one another. But it is highly inconsistent of freedom of speech if you're to like flag them to get them kicked off of the website as a whole. Or on YouTube, say, because I've actually been blocked from her YouTube channel, believe it or not. I cannot comment underneath her videos. Like, I can see my own comments that I put underneath her videos, but I don't think anyone else can, nor can she, or something. Rip. Yeah.
Red Feather asks if we're going to talk about the State of the Union address. You want to talk about that?
I haven't watched the State of the Union address myself. I mean, have you?
Yeah, I did yesterday. I mean, it was, I don't know, pretty standard.
Pretty standard.
Like, I don't know what we're expecting. Like, he went up, he gave the big boy speech, they patted him on the back, and then tomorrow he's going to start tweeting about how everything's unfair and Democrats are crooked and all the same stuff he does before. Like who are we fooling? Like, Red Feather, what do you want to discuss about it? Like, what did he say that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't know, but there's
no reason to do it.
Getting kind of back on subject. I mean, I guess it is a slight inconsistency that we would like put somebody in timeout in our own group chat, but that's only the same as, like, say, me kicking somebody out of one of my own group chats on Twitter. It's not like we had actually flagged Classy Liberal, or
yeah, no,
false. Yeah, false flag.
And the difference is Classy's got a sense of humor about it. He's in on the joke,
right? I mean, we've had cases. I mean, heck, there have been cases of where some of my own internet friends have actually kicked another person out of like a live stream multiple times. Like, he had the guy number 2 had multiple YouTube accounts, and he would just keep on getting ejected by guy number 1 time after time after time, every single time that he would like come back on the live stream. But obviously that was just I mean, both people were in on the joke. It was not a big deal. But with the case of Common Sense Guy and Rin, see, Common Sense Guy wasn't in on the joke. She was just being a sadistic bitch about it, was all. I mean, it's not like she was having any regrets of doing it. Anything like that.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But this whole drama got started up when she flagged him. He got like put in suspension for 12 hours, and then another guy called Just Juste was saying, "Oh, are you too much of a pussy to respond?" or something like that. And that's when the conversation gets brought back up. Basically, Just is like just pouring gasoline on a small cinder to light the fires of drama again by calling him a pussy. And then Common Sense Guy says, well, I could not have responded when I was like put in suspension for 12 hours. And I guess Common Sense Guy wasn't planning to even respond to anybody since the conversation was cold after the suspension.
Well, to be blunt, I'm really like tired of the drama stuff anyway. Like I don't care about Ren. She'll chase whatever she wants and does whatever she wants. I don't have to talk to her.
Did I piss Liberal Sanity Project off? What did I do? Red Feather said.
What did you do? Like, no, I'm fine.
I think it's regarding the State of the Union.
Oh, Red Feather's okay. I gotta tab back to chat. No. Okay, so wait, did you piss me off? No, you didn't piss me off. Stuff about abortions and the country turning to socialism. This country's never going to turn to socialism anyway because it's such a toxic and dirty word. I don't even know what that means. Like, that's such a vapid, vacuous statement. Like, what does that mean? Have better social security? Have better healthcare? Like, whatever. Abortions. Yeah, no. Trump lied out of his teeth for the abortion thing, but whatever. Like, if you didn't watch it, we don't have to talk about it.
Misrepresenting abortion stats or something like that?
No, he described. Okay, so there's two major pieces of abortion legislation that came out recently. One out of New York and one out of Virginia. Yeah, Virginia. That Republicans have been losing their shit over, but they shouldn't. And it because they both basically do the same thing. But they allow for third trimester abortions, which wasn't different from what they did before. The only difference with the Virginia bill is it requires one doctor instead of three to okay the procedure, which was whatever. But Republicans have been basically saying it legalized infanticide, right? It allows you to basically just yank a baby out and kill it, so a person doesn't have to be a mother, something stupid like that.
I mean, isn't that kind of what Ralph Northam kind of confirmed?
No. Well, I don't think Ralph Northam translated it well.
Even the person, I cannot remember what exactly the girl's name was, but the one person who was like put in a hearing with a Republican representative, she said basically, well, okay, he was asking the question. So when a woman is like in labor, she's dilating, they can still abort even then. And then she said basically, yes.
Yes. But so this is the thing. It doesn't let you abort a viable living fetus. Like you can't just kill a viable living fetus. That's not what this bill does. Regardless of what they say, that's not what the bill does. It requires specifically that the mother's life be in danger or she be under threat of serious bodily harm, or requires that the fetus be non-viable. And by non-viable, you can have a fetus that's still alive, but it's going to die, is what non-viable means, or already dead. So basically means you can abort a baby if it's going to be dead.
Well, okay, that's understandable, but I also, okay, from what I've read, I cannot remember. I think it was like one source from Washington Post or something like that. And well, I was taking it with a grain of salt. And there was another source. I was reading two different sources regarding New York and go back to my one episode of Strike Force where I was talking about that. New York's not alone. That from townhall.com, and then CBS News talking about Virginia's bill. And from what I read from both of those sources right there, is that it says that a woman can abort at late term if like their physical or mental health is in danger, which I find
doctor okays it.
Well, I find mental health to be a bit of an ambiguous a territory right there. Like, does it include PTSD? And as far as physical health goes, like, does that include like gaining weight? Because if it includes gaining weight, well then that
What do
seems to
you
be a
think?
petty reason to
Do you
be
think that's what doctors
aborting.
mean when they say physical health?
What?
What do you think? Do you think that's what doctors mean when they mean physical health?
I mean, it does fall under physical health, doesn't it?
Okay, my understanding of this bill is you have to basically incur serious bodily injury, not just like temporary weight gain, but injury that could reasonably disrupt your life for the worse. And also, I think you're again leaving out the caveat: the fetus has to be non-viable, meaning it will die sometime in the third trimester, or it will die shortly after birth. There is no hope for that fetus.
Well, I haven't read from either CBS or Town Hall that either bills say they have to be non-viable for it to be open for abortion.
I was just talking about this earlier today. Let me get you the source I got.
They just was talking about unborn babies as a generality.
Well, these laws didn't change anything about the prior laws. Like the time instance didn't change and the rules didn't change as far as I know. All that changed was that you didn't require 3 doctors to okay the procedure instead of 1. And I don't think hospital admitting privileges were required anymore in the Virginia bill, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up again. But basically, you used to require 3 doctors to okay the procedure. Now I think you only require 1. Let me look it up. But this talking point that Republicans invented and that the president dropped last night, that this just allows you to yank like a living baby out of a woman, that's completely false. That's bullshit.
Well, I did not read anything specifically about New York having anything that was bordering on infanticide. That was more of Virginia.
Yeah, for the New York one, I would suggest you talk. Well, I would suggest you talk to, you know who Claudia Brown is, or the Renting Feminist?
Actually, yeah, I have. I mostly know her by name, and the only reputation I know of her was the drama she had with Christy Winters.
Yeah, but everybody's had drama with Christy Winters. That's not even a knock anymore. But she's actually been pretty neck deep in basically dealing with this last week. She knows it better than most people. I would recommend talking to her. I'm sorry. Let me look.
By the way, abortion is like one of the staple subjects of my channel.
Wait, hello?
Still here.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said abortion is like one of the staple subjects of my channel.
That's exactly what they... Okay. I'm glad we can talk about that subject. Red Feather. You can keep a baby alive at 24 weeks. You can keep a baby alive after birth, right? You can do all this stuff. But not every baby is viable. Viable meaning capable of surviving outside the womb, right? Not all babies do this. Some of them are born with such deformations that they will die either as they are birthed or within days of being birthed, that there is no hope. They have been so deformed in the process of gestation, I don't know what the word is, that they will not survive. Like, that's what a non-viable fetus is. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent after looking at that comment. Let me look at it. Okay, Northam spokeswoman Ofira Yeshev, I don't know, Russian, clarified that this comment referred only to a situation in which a woman with a non-viable pregnancy or severe fetal abnormalities went into labor. That's the you can abort, when the mother's dilating thing. That's where that comes from.
What are they defining as non-viable in that area?
Well, a doctor defines it as non-viable. And non-viable means incapable of surviving outside a womb. Like,
I mean, most 24, most abortions like past 24 weeks, not like in the range of like 20 to 24 weeks. There's like a few cases of where babies have been early birth and survived, but in most cases past 24
not where viability starts.
What?
That's usually about the point of viability. This is an exceptionally rare thing. Like, most babies after the 25th week tend to be viable. That's the case with most fetuses, but not every fetus is the same. Some of them have abnormalities as they develop, and these developments will make a fetus non-viable even as they continue to develop. Like there are certain deformations that can happen. Like that's what this bill is addressing. The fetus is going to die. Like there's no saving it. There's no performing surgery on it. It's dead for all intents and purposes.
I've never read that specification even by CBS News. Like,
okay.
you got the source or something to suggest that
on what fetal non-viability means?
No, not what fetal viability means. I mean, I know what viable means. It can survive outside of the womb, but I did not hear any specification, particularly by CBS News, that it has to be non-viable.
Let me look for one. I'll send it to you, I guess. Like, I guess if you're going to well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if your argument's going to be that doctors can just yank a viable fetus outside of a mother, fucking provide me a source then, because I don't see shit that says that. I see lots of Republican fear mongering that says that. I don't see.
Well, like I said, there was the congressional hearing with what's her face from the Republican representative talking about how, like, in labor.
Yeah, I can read it to you right now. So in this particular example of a mother's in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. Northam said to WTOP's Ask the Governor program Wednesday. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. That's the comment you're referring to, right?
No, not that one. I'm talking about it was a lady that was being put in a hearing by a Republican representative. It wasn't Northam's comments.
Like I can look for it, but I'm telling you, it's going to apply to non-viable fetuses. Like, yeah.
Like I said, I've not read that it has to be.
Well, have you read that?
Viable.
Well, what have you read about it, and where have you read it from?
Both. Well, okay. Primarily CBS News talking about the Virginia bill specifically, and then townhall.com was talking about New York's bill, and then all the other states that pretty much allow late-term abortions, like Alaska included. They're talking about some of the caveats to those as well. The nuances in their various abortion legislation. So I found the clip finally. We can get on. Tran, that was her name. That was her last name. That Tran woman. No, I'm not meaning trans female, as in she was transgender. I mean, that was her last name, Tran.
Yeah.
Being put in a hearing by Representative Gilbert.
Okay.
Saying that the mother, by the way that she had designed her own bill, mother could be in labor, and still be they would still be allowed to abort.
Yeah, if the baby's non-viable.
She did not specify non-viable.
Does she really have to? Like, again, like, this is so silly. Do you think they're gonna abort like a living fetus, a viable fetus?
I don't know. There's the Shout Your Abortion crowd.
What is? Did they write the law?
What?
Did they write the law?
Did they write the law? I mean, no. That my point is that there are people out there that would be crazy enough to do that. Wasn't to say that the Shout Your Abortion crowd is like the people who actually wrote the law. My point is that my response is, would they really do that? And my response is, I don't know. There are people crazy enough out there to do that. I do not know if...
I'm going over the text of the bill. I'm trying to find it.
This has got kind of off subject right here. This live stream has.
Yeah.
Even then, I kind of believe in lowering the cap when it comes to abortions.
Well, certainly you don't believe in mothers birthing dead babies, right? Like if a baby's going to be stillborn, viable, or anything like that.
No.
Certainly, a mother should be allowed an abortion, right?
A baby is like already having no heartbeat, no brain activity, all the signs of death. Well, then, no.
Right, but I'm talking
life of mother. I say no. Then those are cases of where abortion would be allowed.
Oh, I'm talking third trimester. Like if a woman wanted a third trimester abortion because her baby was not going to survive, it was non-viable, and she didn't want to go through the pain of birthing a baby that was just going to die in her arms, should she be allowed to get an abortion?
How
is this?
I would. It's a morally messy issue. Is a thing. I mean, it's hard for me to say a solid yes. I mean, okay. I will just say for right now, yes. But at the same time, if she wants to like risk her own life or risk it herself to go ahead and give birth, well, then that's also her choice as well.
Proposing we force women to get abortions. Like, damn. Like that's extreme.
All right. I mean, unless people were to like impose a one-child policy, but that's
we're not China. I don't think that's going to happen. Birth rates have fallen. It's not even an issue.
No, right.
When abortion is lawful. Okay, hang on. I got to read this section of the I'm actually going through Virginia code just to find this.
And Virginia's did not pass anyway, is what I generally heard, and as reminds us in the chat.
It didn't. Okay, it doesn't change it. Like all that the bill did was change the requirement for 3 doctors, and hospital admitting privileges, and I think fetal ultrasound or something like that.
Wait.
It didn't change the time limit. Is the issue?
Wait, what?
Okay, the bill. I don't know if Virginia passed it or didn't pass it, but even if they didn't, it doesn't matter because the bill only sought to amend current abortion legislation, and that current legislation actually allows for abortions to be carried out in the 3rd trimester. Those abortions carried out in the 3rd trimester, as far as I know, can only be carried out if the safety and health of the mother is threatened or if the fetus is non-viable.
Wait, the legislation that was being proposed by people like Tran and Northam, those were not to raise the cap to late terms.
The cap is already at late terms. It's already at late terms for under very specific circumstances.
Well, I'm talking about just in general allowing late terms.
Yeah, well, I don't think in general you can allow late terms. Like I don't think any legislature allows it in general for late terms. I think there's already been a federal ban on late term abortions anyway, or partial birth, which is a misleading term.
I never heard of that actually. Well, okay.
Which passed a law that Obama amended. Okay, I mean, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. I'm sorry. Hang on. I'm still trying to read this. It's hard to like juggle this.
Okay.
Okay. Notwithstanding, this is long, but this is the section of Virginia law 18.2-74. When abortion or termination of pregnancy lawful after 2nd trimester of pregnancy. I'm going to read the law. Notwithstanding any of the provisions of yada yada, and in addition to the provisions of yada yada, it shall be lawful for any physician licensed by the Board of Medicine to practice medicine and surgery to terminate or attempt to terminate a human pregnancy, or aid or assist in the termination of a human pregnancy by performing an abortion or causing a miscarriage on any woman in a stage of pregnancy subsequent to the 2nd trimester, provided the following conditions are met. Right? Okay, so it has to meet these conditions. Said operation is performed in a hospital licensed by the Virginia State Department of Health or operated by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. The physician and 2 consulting physicians certify and so enter in the hospital record of the woman that in their medical opinion, based upon the best clinical judgment, the continuation of the pregnancy is likely to result in the death of the woman or substantially and irredeemably impair the mental or physical health of the woman. Measures for life, this is the part you're talking about. Measures for life support for the product of such an abortion or miscarriage must be available and utilized if there is any clear visible evidence of viability. Basically, you can't just kill it. If it's viable, it stays alive. I know this is really hard to like sift through and deal with, and then such an emotionally charged topic that it's hard to get this topic out. But I'm telling you, the Republican spin on this is absolute bullshit, and I know it's hard to deal with it, but like there you go. There's the link. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know that took a long time to get through, and I don't mean to be long-winded.
laws.lis.virginia.gov. It says specifically not allowed to abort if they are definitely going to be able to live.
No, you can abort if they're going to be able to live. You just can't kill them. Like you can abort a pregnancy by extracting a full-grown fetus that is viable and it can still live. That's extraction and dilation. Abortion doesn't necessarily mean you just jumble up the fetus while it's in the womb. Like that's not how it works. You can actually dilate a woman and extract a fetus in full form, and you can keep it alive.
Wait. I think we're having miscommunication here, because that wasn't what I asked.
What
I was trying to ask was, oh god, I think we're getting lost in the jungle of words here. Abortion or
wait, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What are you trying to ask?
I was trying to ask, so they're not allowed to abort if it is going to live.
I think they are allowed to abort if it is going to live, if it saves the life of the mother. Like there's also that, right? The continuation of the pregnancy is likely to result in the death of the woman or substantially and irredeemably impair the mental or physical health of the woman.
If it's endangering the life of the mother, I'm not even talking about life of mother circumstances. I'm talking about every other pregnancy case does not endanger the life of the mother.
Okay, so let's assume that the life of the mother is not at stake. You're asking, can she get an abortion in the third trimester?
If the baby is viable.
I think the only option she's got is a C-section at that point. I don't think, like, if you're asking, so this is the problem with loading words. Can she abort the pregnancy? Yes. Can she get an extraction and dilation? I don't know. Yes, but I don't think it kills the fetus. Like you can't, once it's viable, you have to provide, like Section C of this says, you have to provide support, life support for the product of such an abortion or miscarriage must be available and utilized if there is any clear visible evidence of viability. And miscarriage and the abortion don't mean like death, right? You can miscarry and still miscarry just means you birthed a fetus incorrectly, right? Like none of these things necessarily carry with it the consequence of death. Those are really loaded ways to talk about this. So you can have an abortion and still get an intact fetus out of it, right? Now, generally, if the fetus is non-viable, it's going to die, right? And this is what you want to avoid for mothers. Like this isn't usually like prior to like labor. It's not going to happen. You'll know by that time for the most part. But in that situation, you know, if you extract a non-viable fetus, it's going to die. If you extract a fetus and it is viable, they have to provide life support for it, which is what Section C of the abortion bill says.
What about in the case of mental health? I mean, explain that, because there's still that bit when it came to the Virginia bill.
I don't know. I ask the three doctors who make this judgment. I'm not sure.
Because if you're allowed to like abort, if they were allowed to abort at late terms, because the risk of the mother is mental health, supposedly, and they're like having PTSD fall under that. I mean, PTSD sucks, like I said in the one episode of Strike Force, but I don't see as to how that falls on the unborn baby to then be killed at that point.
Okay, again, it doesn't necessarily have to carry with it the consequence of death. You can extract a fetus without killing it, right? So if a mother has is in such a mental state that she couldn't possibly go through a live birth, and you can extract a fetus and it's a viable fetus, you would provide life support. If the fetus were unviable, it would die. Or
are you talking about Are you talking about carrying out technically? Are you talking about carrying out by definition an abortion without actually killing the unborn
you can
baby?
do that. Like abortion simply means to abort a pregnancy. It doesn't have to carry with it the consequence of killing the fetus. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's easiest to kill the fetus. But in the third trimester, that typically is not the way that abortions are carried out. Usually, as far as I understand, they're carried out by extractions. I'm sorry, dilations and extractions, like full fetus extractions.
Full feet. Wait. Repeat that again. You said most abortions are carried out by full fetus extractions.
Most third trimester abortions, I believe, are carried out by dilation and extraction. And let me just look it up. Or dilation and evacuation. What's the difference? Shit. Intact dilation and extraction. Intact dilation and extraction is a surgical procedure that removes an intact fetus from the uterus. The procedure is used after late-term miscarriages and in late-term abortions. Now, the reason it typically might be used for like late-term miscarriages or late-term abortions is because sometimes, like nobody, like I know you're going to disagree this is a thing, but most people don't want to get abortions. And if you're in the third trimester, you probably wanted the baby. And so this usually arises from medical complications, and a lot of people want to have like funerals and stuff, so they'll want like an intact fetus to bury.
By the way, I would not disagree with most people don't. I wouldn't disagree with the talking point that most people don't want abortions. I mean, I would hope that that was the case, and I generally give the benefit of the doubt that most pro-choicers do not literally praise abortions, aside from the "Shout Your Abortion" crowd. Hello.
Okay.
I mean, that's one talking point that I don't disagree with. But if people are just going to make the broad statement like Nicole Arbor did that nobody wants an abortion, well, then that's where I'm all like, what about these people who push out the hashtag of hashtag shout your abortion? I mean, there are those few nut jobs out there.
What about, like, I'm not down with like oppressing the rights of people because some crazy people have different attitudes about it.
No, that's not my thing. I mean, that's not my wedge right there. I mean, I don't say, hey, we need to like ban abortion because there are these crazies who actually like abortion. I'm saying need to like lower the cap on abortion because unborn baby has a certain right to life, I believe, and the position that they're in, that being like them being inside another person, is not of their own fault.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by lower the cap on. Like, what does that mean?
As in, take it down to like, say, 9 weeks, for example.
Why? Why not just let doctors decide what's medically necessary?
Well, if the baby is going to like come out healthy in all eventuality, well, then I don't see as to how it's medically necessary for an abortion, unless like life of mother is like in danger. If the pregnancy was to go along longer, then the mother is more
risk. A doctor would decide.
What?
Isn't that typically when a doctor would decide? Like, why would you?
I mean, are you talking about them giving like a diagnosis that, hey, miss, you're going to die if you carry on this abortion?
Yeah, like third trimester
this pregnancy, I mean,
aren't aborted without like the consent or advice of a doctor. Typically, like women don't just willy nilly decide in the third trimester to go and see.
I'm not talking about third trimesters. I'm talking about lowering the cap, as in for how late you can have an abortion. The current cap, as you said yourself, I mean, I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt for right now that the cap right now is 24 weeks. You cannot just have an abortion outside of life of mother past 24 weeks. But even for besides life of mother cases, I want to lower that cap down to, like, say in the case of convenience or rape, you cannot have an abortion past 9 weeks. Is my belief.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, why? At 9 weeks, the fetus isn't viable. Why at 9 weeks? Why not 10 weeks?
Well, I don't find viability to define a person's right to life necessarily. I mean, it helps cement it a little bit more, but just because a person is like reliant on another person to survive doesn't mean that their right to life is null and void.
Okay, so when does an individual get a right to life?
I say when brain waves are detected, which is actually earlier than that. So ideally, I would say 7 weeks, but I'm just using 9 weeks as more of an arbitrary number that I am throwing out in this in this case, in this argument right here. But because brainwaves are actually detected at 6.5 weeks. That's what I find to be the beginning of defining one's own personhood. I mean, once you're brain dead, you're pretty much, well, already dead. You're just an empty husk that is being kept on life support, hoping that you'll detect like brain activity again. Like when somebody gets like 80 years old, they're pretty much brain dead. They get taken to the hospital. They're put on they're hooked up to all these machines. Their heart and lungs are kept breathing and working and whatnot. And then you have like the family of the 80-year-old hoping and praying and whatnot that the person will come back to life, that there'll be a sign of life within their brain. They'll just wake up from whatever it is that is making them brain dead.
If there is, seems like an inconsistent standard. Like if you go by non-viable fetuses, you can still have a non-viable fetus that is alive and has brain activity, right? That's a possibility. But you wouldn't force a woman to give birth to a non-viable fetus, right?
A non-viable fetus, like if you're talking about the fetus is going to eventually die nonetheless, then no, I guess it's a moot point.
So, I mean, I guess I just don't understand why brain activity is the arbiter here if you're okay with killing it here. Like, you see it's a moot point here, but it's not if it's a few weeks earlier.
If it's a few weeks... when you say few weeks earlier, are you talking about in between 0 to 7 weeks?
Oh, no, I actually mean about 30 weeks, but fair enough. But what's the difference, I guess?
30 weeks?
I guess... Well, no, I'm asking for a third trimester, yeah. But I guess what's the difference?
I'm not even talking about.
I understand that. I was using that to demonstrate that your issue isn't really brain activity.
My issue is not. What do you mean? Because I could pretty much tell you that it is.
Okay, I guess let me try it this way. What is, why brain activity?
Well, like I've been trying to say, I believe that is when that personhood is the beginning of personhood.
Okay, why do you believe that?
Why do I believe that?
Yeah, why do you believe that's the beginning of personhood?
I guess I would have to find a good definition of personhood at that point, but personhood would mean like an emoting, thinking. I mean, they're not as much a thinking, but that's okay.
I'm just curious. Would you say that a living person with brain damage such that they're in a persistent vegetative state, do you think they have personhood?
I would okay. If there's brain activity, yes.
Okay.
If there's still some trace of humanity sensed in them to where they can like put out some human interaction of some sorts, well then I'll say
state. Yes. Like there's no human interaction. They are laying in a bed and will never wake up.
Laying in a bed, never wake up. That almost sounds like brain death, pretty much.
More or less is. You could still have brain activity.
Okay.
So that's why I'm not sure why this is the standard.
Okay. Well, you say there is brain death, but wait a minute. That doesn't make sense to me. There's brain death, but there's brain activity at the same time with a person who's in a vegetative state.
Right. So you can have people who are brain dead in the sense that their brain will no longer function and that they can't form coherent thoughts. They'll never be conscious. They'll never actively move, but they can still breathe. They can still digest food. their brain is still sending signals to their body to carry out basic and necessary human functions to survive, right?
I guess what I'm meaning by brain activity is brain waves primarily, because
These people have brain waves too.
what?
Those people, the people I just described, have brain waves too.
The people
I understand what you mean by
state.
brain waves. I just don't understand why this is the starting point. And I'm trying to like move you around and see where else you're going to apply this standard to and see if you're consistent. So when I ask, like, if somebody were in a car accident and they're in a coma and the doctor says this person is never going to wake up again, they've damaged their brain so severely that they are now in a persistent vegetative state. All they can do is breathe on their own and digest food and shit. But for the rest of their life, they will be in this bed attached to machines. Okay. Is that still a person to you? I guess I should ask. Have they retained their humanity such that it would be unethical to have a doctor remove feeding tubes?
I would say no.
You would say no, that it would be unethical? Wait.
No. I'm saying no, as in that's not a person. That okay? You're saying that they're still brain dead. So I would define that pretty much, unless by some miracle they wake up and
never gonna happen.
No longer brain dead.
So
okay, never gonna happen. So in that, adding this to the hypothetical situation, they're brain dead and will never wake up out of brain death. Well, then, yeah, they pretty much are dead by my own moral code, and it's on the jurisdiction of the next of kin to just go ahead and have the plug pulled.
Now, I'm curious, why does this standard apply to somebody who's in a persistent vegetative state, who you said it's okay to pull the plug, they're brain dead, even though they still got brain waves, but not to a fetus?
Are they technically really in a vegetative state? The unborn babies?
Well, yeah, they are you could say they're in a vegetative state until they are birthed, if you want. Like, what do they do?
I guess we ought to define a vegetative state, because I've never heard fetuses be defined as they're in a vegetative state ever.
Okay, but the issue was brainwaves. You said you didn't want to kill a fetus at 7 weeks because they already have brainwaves, right? But in this situation where the guy gets in the car accident, he still has brainwaves, and you're okay with removing the feeding tube. So there's an inconsistency here. Now we got to explore it. Why do we got that inconsistency? What's the difference here?
Well, you also bring up the case that the person who is actually brain dead has no ability of interaction.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a difference. I mean, a fetus, especially at like 13, 14 weeks, has some ability of interaction.
When was the last time you interacted with a fetus? Like, what do you mean?
You want me to like show you some videos of 13, 14 week fetuses? Like, these are like live fetuses.
Are they kicking and moving? Like, is that your idea?
Kicking and moving, yes.
Okay. I mean, if that's your standard, I guess. I mean, I disagree with what you say. It seems like picking brainwaves as the cutoff point is just arbitrary and weird. Like, I would pick viability. That's what makes the most sense to me.
Well, it definitely, okay. Viability, if they can like live without the mother, say at 20 or 21 weeks without being connected to the mother and inside their womb, well, then that definitely cements it in my logic. But I don't think that just because you're on like basically what can be summed up as a natural life support system, because the fetal, whatever it's called, the fetal cord and everything else that the baby is like connected, that connects the baby to the mother in being pregnant, that's basically a natural life support system. This is how I look at it in my layman's perspective. I don't think being hooked up to a life support system makes your right to life null and void, especially since it is not your fault that you're in the position of being in a. I mean, this, especially being the unborn baby, it's not their fault that they're inside the mother.
Can I ask you a hypothetical?
Sure.
So, you're the dark conservatarian, and a building's on fire. You're walking by a building, And in one room in the building, there is a fetus developing in vitro, right? It's a test tube baby. And in the other room is a living 5-month-old screaming in a crib. And you can only save one before the building topples onto you. Which one do you save and why?
The 5-month-old baby. And here's the reason why. Because, okay, what was the other circumstance? It was like a 13-week fetus?
Yeah. Well, let's say it's a 20, let's say it's a 30-week fetus. Let's say it's 30 weeks.
Okay, a 30-week fetus, like it's still in the sack in like you said, a test tube, and then there's a 5-month already born baby.
And Dr. Rinnie Mikhailis's mad lab, it's there.
Okay, so actually, even like Ben Shapiro addressed this in an episode of his show. Like somebody brought up a different situation of where there's 5,000 conceived eggs in a test tube versus an already born baby. Like, obviously, any human is going to go for the already born baby. And it's kind of the same equivalent as to why people, like, choose the mother over, like, say, a 30-week fetus. Is because when it comes to life of mother circumstances, people have moral priorities. They would, like... Okay. I do not know the best way to frame it exactly, but... Basically, it's the same equivalent of life of mother and how we prioritize one person over another. Because the mother is, like, already out in the world and people have already, like, had, like, more close one-on-one interactions with her. Why people have, like, and actually know her as a person. Why people prioritize her over, say... the 30-week fetus that's inside her. And so therefore, if the 30-week-year-old fetus is like doomed to die or kill the mother if she carries on with the pregnancy, well, then that's why we say, yeah, you have jurisdiction to abort. This is like the stance of most of the pro-life community, by the way. Most of the pro-life community believes in a life of mother exception. Yeah. And then it kind of extends in the same way with the 5-month baby versus the 30-week conceived fetus inside a test tube. Because people have actually had one-on-one interactions and know the baby more as a person. Well, barely, because newborn or practically newborn babies have next to no personality in comparison to a full-grown woman. Yeah. But still... I think
it's just that you identify with one more because you understand there's a difference in the degree of personhood. What
exactly
or not, like, for some reason, as it's more developed, it's more of a person to you.
Yeah, there's a degree of personhood, like if in the case of life of mother, the mother has more personhood than the fetus. Thus, if one person's life is endangered by the other, she has jurisdiction to go ahead and have the pregnancy terminated. But I do not unless her life is actually endangered, I don't think that automatically makes the fetus open for a termination of their life.
Okay.
Just because of a lack of personhood. The lack of personhood makes the other person, if their life is endangered, less valuable, so to speak. But it doesn't mean that their value is absolutely null and void, and therefore it can just kill it willy-nilly, even if nobody...
What value does a fetus have?
What value does a fetus have?
Yeah. How is a fetus valuable to me or you or anybody?
Well, I guess hardly at all, but neither is a one-day-old born baby.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, especially if they were, like, birthed by shitty ass parents that don't care for the baby at all.
I'd argue the difference is the one-day-old baby's already been inducted into the social contract because it's demonstrated that it's viable and can survive, and a fetus hasn't. Like, I know I can get value out of that 1-month-old baby. I'm sorry, one-day-old baby as it grows and develops. But a fetus, I mean, if I kill it right now,
that's the same thing as a fetus. I mean, if you let it grow more, it will eventually become a person valuable to your interactions.
But I mean, there's also drawbacks. I mean, depending on how deep you want to get into sociology, there is an argument. Oh man, I got to look for this. There's a research paper that basically looked at states that legalized abortion prior to Roe v. Wade and then Roe v. Wade itself, and it did a longitudinal study, and it found that after Roe v. Wade was legalized nationwide, there was a dramatic drop in the rate of crime that corresponded with like
I would
the age gap that most people would commit crime.
I haven't researched it myself, but I would kind of call that into question because I know that people have like
hang on, I debated Destiny on this. I gotta look for the study. Since it's a Destiny.
Isn't he pro-choice as well?
Yeah, he is pro-choice, but he'll say he's pro-life, but he's not. He's pro-choice. He says he's morally pro-life, which, okay, that's cool, but if you think a person has the choice, you're pro-choice. Like, just say you're pro-choice, dude. Don't waste time. Okay, here it is. The Levitt-Donahue hypothesis. That's what it's called. I'm sending it to you right now. But basically, there's a drop in crime after Roe v. Wade's legalization that was attributed to abortion. You can read it later and then nail it to me if you have some problem with it. Like, I'm not expecting you to answer for it now. This is just information you can't deal with.
I'm like reading the other link you provided right now.
Wait, which other link?
The Virginia law one.
Oh, yeah. Did you see my block list? Look at that. I'm hated.
Oh, wait. Is that the one that's in the black picture here?
Black picture? I mean, I sent you a picture. I don't know if it's black.
Well, okay. I see like one in... Oh, Brianna Wu. There's one picture of being doxxed by Brianna Wu, and then I think you might have shared a second picture, but that second picture has not come in, and then there's a third picture down here that's in kind of a black background with you are blocked by... Okay, yeah, that's the one. Never mind. No, I have not actually gone through it, but it's only a few dozen.
A few? What? Those are like some major people. Come on.
Well, yeah, the major people, but nonetheless, that's not...
I basically blocked by half of YouTube. Like, half of political YouTube's got me blocked.
All right. Set operations for...
You name them, chat. I'm probably blocked by them. That's called eugenics, yeah? Who said eugenics was bad? Ooh. Just because it dropped in crime doesn't make it correct. If we legalize murder, guess that would... Well, no, murder's illegal. That would grow the rate of crime. If you legalize it, it's no longer murder, right? Murder is a legal classification.
Okay, just because... Right, yeah, I don't... I understand Scorch's argument right there.
Yeah, and I do too. I don't agree with this. I don't like this argument that because some bad can result from somebody's right, that you should necessarily cut off all access to that right. That's really flawed reasoning, and I'm sure he doesn't even believe that if you test him on that on other issues.
I mean, okay. Okay, just because it's dropped in crime doesn't make it correct. We legalize murders. Guess what? The rate of murder crimes would disappear because it's legal. Well, my thing is, I sympathize with the whole talking point that just because statistically speaking, there's like a drop in this one immoral thing, that being like crime like theft or murder or whatever else you're applying to ever since the passing of Roe v. Wade, doesn't justify the legalizing itself of abortion as well. This thing that is like this other thing that is immoral or viewed as immoral by almost half of the country.
Yeah, I'm gonna okay. I don't think what half the country thinks is moral or is moral or immoral should dictate the rights of other people, though. I mean, maybe I do in a social contract sense, but I like the idea of being as free as possible.
I think the argument is that ultimately, just because like it dropped the crime isn't like the breaking point, talking point to convince us as to why we think that abortion should be okay is another breakdown of Scorch's comment right there.
Yeah, but I'm not convinced why abortion isn't okay. Like, I don't think you've sufficiently demonstrated that to me. I think some sort of a vague philosophical assertion about a right to life because a person has personhood. I mean, I find that logic kind of circular, actually. Like, a fetus has value and a right to life because it's a person. What makes it a person? It's right to life. Like, I'm not sure what's regarding that.
I did not say that it. I did not say it has personhood because of right to life. I said it has a right to life because of personhood.
Right. So
I mean, personhood
there.
Personhood is not defined by a right to life, is my philosophical understanding. And just because, okay, and say like in the future, like we come to some nihilistic situation where people throw away the right to life does not mean anything. Well, then personhood would come into no play there at all. The only reason as to why that I'm using the right to life in this circumstance is because of the fact that, generally speaking, society values the right to life. I mean, say in the future that society generally decided, hey, right to life means nothing, let's murder each other willy-nilly. I do not know of how I would be able to make necessarily a philosophical argument against that. Like, hey, no, you can't kill me, I have a right to life. And they're just all like, oh, no, fuck you. How can you argue that you have a right to life or whatever else?
I don't know. I think my argument is more rooted in social contract for like a philosophical foundation about why people can or can't do something. But I'm of the belief that if you want something to be illegal, you have to justify the illegality. And like I said, I don't think you've done that. Like not to knock you. It's just we're going to disagree because this is just the way that's just the nature of the topic. We're going to disagree.
Justify the illegality of abortion.
Yeah, like I said, I can't fathom making something illegal because of potential drawbacks on some minor scale when the benefits of it at broad, or I should say the liberalization of it at broad, the freedom of it at broad is better than the drawbacks. Like, it's better for people to be free and make their own healthcare decisions than it is for government to dictate that, well, in these one niche situations, we should control your healthcare.
Well, I mean, I don't want to control women's health or bodies or anything like that necessarily. But I think that the woman's health and body and whatnot should not completely overrule and stomp out the right to life of certain individuals, this being like unborn babies, for example.
I think you fundamentally are controlling their health and body, though, if you tell them they can't get an abortion after 7 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever the number was you came up with.
I mean, ultimately that is the case, but that's not what the issue is about. Like, it's not about for us, oh, me hate woman, me want to control their bodies or anything like that. It's about the right. Okay. I mean, I know that you've kind of debated side by side with Shane Killian and that one abortion stream.
Yeah, I did. That was fun.
I mean,
Shiny was pretty rough.
Yeah, I admired Shiny's passion, although I kind of wish that she had cut both you and Shane
constantly, right?
Less.
Like, she was doing that a lot.
But I'm losing my train of thought.
She's a fierce debater.
Really is. My rights end where your rights begin is my philosophy on, yes, even abortion. I believe that the rights, the mother's right to her own health and her own body end where the baby's right to life begins. Unless if, of course, the mother's life is actually in danger. I mean,
okay.
And then the baby did not do anything to actively impede on the woman's body, the rights to her own body.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to like read the last few paragraphs of this Virginia law article. I mean, I'm like directing my attention back and forth between the stream and this article. Maybe I should just
you don't have to read them all. You don't have to digest them all right now, dude. That's a lot of stuff.
Maybe I should just ultimately save it for some other later time.
You're always welcome to nail it to me, dude. Whatever you got, nail it to me. If I'm wrong about something, go ahead and let me know.
But the women, okay, Scorch and Red Feather. I know that both of these two subscribers of mine are pro-lifers, but apparently they are. It seems that they're debating with each other in the chat, almost. Okay. But the women had their choice in creating the baby, said Red Feather. Well, yeah, I mean, that's where that the case of convenience, when it comes to rape, I am more sympathetic to women who are ultimately pregnant from that. But when it comes to the case of convenience, like say you just forgot the condom or you active, like that one lady, I cannot remember what her name was, but it was on some YouTube channel that got responded to where she was like talking to a whole bunch of kids about her own abortion. And she was all like, we just wanted the easy way out. So we actively forgot the condom. We just completely skipped it. Yeah. And it was just it was more convenient to forget about the condom. And then afterwards, it was more convenient to go for the abortion and so on and so forth. I am less sympathetic to those kind of stories. Rape, even though I think is not the baby's fault that the mother was raped, still am a little bit more sympathetic towards that than convenience.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I guess the gears here on this stream are kind of dying down a bit.
Oh, I don't know. Do you want me to like? I don't know. You just made a declaration. I don't know if I'm supposed to respond to that or like, is that a point or a question or I'm not sure. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, I wasn't sure. Is that something I'm supposed to respond to?
Not necessarily. I guess we can just move off of the.
Yeah, I thought that was your opinion part. My bad. Or still talk about it. Whatever you want to do, dude. I'm good with whatever.
I mean, I don't know if I am fully convinced about. I mean, I will acknowledge that the Virginia and New York bills are a little bit more nuanced, but I mean, they say like if it falls under woman's health, mental or physical, well then. But then my question was when I originally read, they can only have late-term abortions when it comes to the mother's mental or physical health. The question that I was wondering was what falls under those cases, though.
I truly don't know. But here's a question. Would you say you're pro-life? Like, yes or no?
I would claim that label, yes. Either that or anti-abortion.
Don't you think that the best answer to reducing abortions would be to subsidize birth control and make it available to anybody?
Hey, I have no issue with it. Okay, subsidizing birth control? Not so much because condoms are cheap and almost everywhere. There's no real shortage of them, for one thing. But
yeah, but some people just don't want to have sex with a condom, and sometimes condoms break. Like what? Like, I guess I'm weird about this. This is one of those things where there's absolutely no drawbacks that I can imagine. I can't imagine why you would be against funding birth control. Like, explain it to me.
Well, I guess ultimately it would be like a doable, somewhat tolerable compromise. I mean, I would rather see welfare increase than abortions increase, but at the same time, okay, well, I'm kind of going off on a different subject because condoms don't technically and birth control don't technically classify under welfare. But why not subsidize birth control? Well, I think I would rather see like sex education get subsidized and paid for. But the reason why I guess I'm not for subsidizing birth control is primarily because condoms are cheap, but
how does a person without a job afford a condom?
Without a job?
Yeah.
I mean, are homeless people in mass impregnating each other to the point that they want an abortion?
Women are still getting pregnant. who don't intend to get pregnant. Like, it seems to be an issue that not everybody who wants a condom uses a condom or can afford a condom. So I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, they're cheap, but even cheap can be cost prohibitive if you're unemployed. Like, and it seems like a real big inconvenience, right? Like going out to the store, like it ruins the mood. Like, hey, baby, wait here for 15 minutes. And I'm going to frame the argument like this: you fund birth control, you're going to cut down on welfare use for future generations of children, right? Because you're going to have children who are planned for, right? You're not going to have people who aren't ready to be parents having kids that they can't afford to have, who end up on welfare that you can't afford to pay, right? So, and it also reduces the number of abortions, right? You'll have less abortions because you'll have less people getting pregnant, people who can control their pregnancy. So what are the drawbacks of this that would justify, I mean, I guess, not subsidizing birth control?
I mean, with birth control, like primarily condoms being so cheap, what is your suggestion that they practically be free? Because that would be like the next step for them.
Why not? Planned Parenthood hands out free condoms. Schools hand out free condoms.
Oh boy!
And why not subsidize women's birth control as well?
I mean, if
there's numerous other health benefits that come with birth control that isn't just related to controlling birth. Right? Some women use it to control their. I'm sorry.
If they're already free, I don't see as to why you're bringing this up as an issue. But by Planned Parenthood in specific, even though I freaking hate Planned Parenthood, but that's beside the point.
Well, condoms are free in some locations, but birth control as a rule is generally not free. It's not subsidized. You know, you pay for it through your healthcare provider or you pay for it out of pocket.
Okay, that last comment I was trying to like comprehend from Red Feather. I think she might have anyway, it's becoming like 10 in my time zone. I kind of want to like
yeah, you want to wrap it up. Okay, I just wanted
to not completely wrap it up, but go off on different subjects before wrapping it up.
Shoot them out.
But just I guess to sum up the issue of abortion, though, I would rather welfare be increased than abortions increase. That's where I'll leave it at that.
Word.
Actually, I think we talked about all I wanted to in regards to the alt-right. All right. So what are your thoughts on, I guess I'll ask you a couple quick questions. Like, what are your thoughts on single payer?
I'm actually quite a big fan of single payer. I just wish Democrats would put forth a plan that actually funds it and not puts a $39 trillion hole in the national debt. It's cheaper. It works better, but Democrats haven't come up with a solid plan.
Now, what does single payer mean to you exactly? Because I heard 3 different definitions of single payer get thrown out there before.
So single payer to me just means a government health insurance program akin to Medicare or Medicaid. Those are single payer programs in the sense that people pay into them and that functions as a single payer for people's healthcare expenses. You know, the problem is Medicare and Medicaid are exclusive either to people who are poor or disabled or are retired. It would be great. Like, to me, the freest market solution would be if Americans can just buy into Medicare in much the same way they can choose to use the U.S. Postal Service. Like, FedEx still competes, right? You still have UPS, but you also have a public option available that you can buy into if you want. And I think most Americans would benefit from having an option that they can buy into if they want.
So basically what you're wanting is both a public and private option.
Most single payer countries have public and private options. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's my biggest thing is I don't want the entire industry of healthcare to be nationalized and centrally controlled by the government, like say the NHS in the UK, for example. That's my biggest thing when it comes to single payer.
But I think the UK still has private insurance companies, even though they have a nationalized system.
I don't know.
I mean, every country runs it differently, but for me, I'm content to just buy into Medicare.
I've always heard, generally speaking, that it was all government ran. It was all government ran in the UK. Whereas Switzerland, I have actually explicitly read about Switzerland. They actually have more of a private, more privatized healthcare industry in comparison to the rest of their European neighbors.
I don't know anything about it.
I forgot what I was gonna ask.
All right. So fair, now what?
Another final issue is like gun control. What how far do you want gun control? I haven't like watched the gun control debate on Dap's channel yet. I have in my watch later list.
Here's what I want to do.
What?
Here's what I want to do. I want jackbooted government employees to go and find every single piece of gun in American hands and confiscate it. Then I want them to use those guns, point them at Americans, and institute a communist rule over them. Anybody who is convicted of wrongthink, such as using the wrong gender pronouns, they should be gulagged and forced into political re-education camps for the betterment of the future.
Bring it on, bitch.
I believe sincerely in moderate amounts of gun control. I don't believe banning every gun. I don't think anybody does. Like, I think that's a silly straw man somebody made up.
Well, there are those few who do.
Well, yeah, I don't define debates by like the crazies on one side. Like it's everybody's position is generally more nuanced than that. So my opinion on guns. Yeah, generally I like people being as free as they can to own whatever guns they can, but certain exceptions need to be made for the betterment of society. And we have to understand that certain weapons are exceptionally destructive in their capabilities, and it's perfectly reasonable to regulate those.
I mean, are you for banning AR-15s?
Yes.
Why, despite how statistically they don't contribute a lot in gun homicides?
Because they're a weapon of war designed specifically for killing human beings.
I mean, any gun is designed specifically to be able to kill human beings.
I don't know. Some guns are designed to kill deer. So, well, beer too. Some guns are designed to kill rabbits. Some guns are designed to, like, there's guns you can hunt with. In the case of pistols, there's also guns you can defend yourself with. Right.
Well, I don't think necessarily the design of it necessarily negates of what it can be used for, because AR-15s are used for hunting as well.
Well, sure, they can be used for hunting, but you can use a howitzer for hunting too. You can also use a howitzer for self-defense, right? Just aim it at your door and wait for the burglar to walk in. But
howitzer is going to like completely destroy the meat, but
right.
AR-15's just a single shot and bam, deer is dead.
Right. So the issue is what the intent of the weapon is. The AR-15 is intended as a weapon of assault to kill people with.
Or it can be used as a weapon of defense as well.
It can be used as that. It's not designed for that.
I mean, it's not designed
for warfare.
It's not designed for it, but I think it is like any law-abiding citizen's right to be able to use it against its what you are putting it out to be, its own intended design, and that is law-abiding citizens using it to defend.
So I'm curious, would you be okay with machine guns being legalized?
I would think generally, well, okay. Yes, but at the same time, I'm not entirely against certain licensing.
Well, maybe I'm not against certain types of licensing for AR-15s too.
Well, I asked you if you were for banning AR-15s earlier.
Okay, by ban, I mean regulate in such a way that the average person cannot have access to it without the appropriate licensing, training, or what have you, right? Much in the same way you can shoot a machine gun. You can legally own and shoot a machine gun in the United States. I want that same kind of legislation to apply to AR-15s.
See, here's my thing. It's one thing for a person to like to bring out a piece of legislation that says increased background checks or whatever, but if you're going to like put out a piece of legislation that outright bans and even goes so far to confiscate guns, well, then that is like an unacceptable level for me. I mean, especially when it comes to common,
like, especially when arguing for confiscation. Damn.
Okay.
Like, I'm not arguing for that. I'd never argue for confiscation.
Well, even just a plain banning of any further manufacturing and selling of new guns of a certain type. Like, That's what they tried to do in 93, if I recall correctly, with the assault weapons ban. And then they tried to renew it in 2003 and then 2013, but both times failed.
Yep.
And now Trump is all like, I would be open to renewing the Dianne Feinstein assault weapons ban.
No, he isn't.
What?
No, he isn't. It's great. It's great that he banned bump stocks, but he's not going to ban the AR. Firstly, Congress is never going to make that happen ever. Like it's so ingrained in our culture now. It's never going to go back.
Well, there was an article that I had read of where he actually stated that he is open for it. I mean, maybe you can like call out bullshit on that, but okay, yes.
And he's done articles where he says he's in favor of single payer healthcare too, but he's clearly not. So I mean, I don't trust anything coming out of Trump's mouth. Like, he's such a habitual liar. I don't know how people do.
Right. I mean, okay. So actions speak more than words, and here's how we go about with the whole gun thing. You as a leftist dislike him on that because you don't believe him for saying that. But I, as a right-wing guy, dislike him for that statement, just for merely uttering that statement over the possibility that he might be true.
Okay.
I mean,
I dislike him for way more than that, but yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm sticking primarily just for this statement. I mean, you can call bullshit on that statement of him wanting to ban assault weapons all you want, but that does not diminish my disapproval of him even uttering those words.
I would suggest you can argue the idea without bringing the politicians into it, because then it muddies the waters. Like, we can argue the validity of a gun ban or the constitutionality, which, by the way, Constitution's on my side, without like bringing because it's just gonna like muddy the waters. There's no real point in it.
I mean, what do you mean the Constitution is on your side?
Yeah, so several states have banned AR-15s before, and they've been reviewed, and they've been found to have been within the Constitution, right? Like, governments can ban the AR-15. It's perfectly constitutional.
How is it perfectly constitutional? It says right to bear arms. It doesn't just say right to bear only this arm or only that arm.
Right. You have a right to free speech too. It doesn't say you have a right to pornography, right? You can still regulate pornography, right? Child pornography is banned. Like, just because it says something doesn't mean it's the absolute of what it says in the Constitution. There's more nuance.
And that's why I say that you have the right to go ahead and freaking. Well, I guess if you want to go off on a limb, that's how that they were able to like pass the 1986 ban on fully automatic weapons. But porn is not exactly even speech, really. The act of child porn. It's not even the fact that child porn gets shared around that people have issue with, which could, I guess, be classified as free speech. It's the act of child porn in of itself that people have an issue with. It's the fact that it exists at all why people say it should be illegal. So, and why it is illegal.
The First Amendment says you have a right to free speech. Porn is a form of free speech. Not all porn is legal. Child pornography is illegal. Government can regulate that kind of speech. It is not unconstitutional to do so. The same principle applies to guns. The government says you can have. What's up?
There's also the differences between children's rights and adults' rights. I mean, we're obviously under two different sets of laws.
Like, that's not the point. My point was just to demonstrate that the Constitution is not unlimited in everything it says. That
right, and that's why I'm not advocating necessarily for 8-year-olds to own AR-15s.
But why not? Why can't 8-year-olds? Why are you trampling on an 8-year-old's right?
Because they also don't have the right to have sex with 21-year-olds and don't have the right to vote and all this other kind of stuff.
I gotcha.
It falls under the same rules. I mean, they're not exactly all equivalent. I mean, if a 8-year-old was to merely wield an AR-15, but wasn't to shoot at anyone, it's not nearly as immoral as them being fondled by a 21-year-old.
Okay,
But
so
it's still under the same principle, though, as to why we do not give some certain rights and privileges to children, because they aren't their brains are not like fully developed for them to be able to grasp the weight of all these big decisions.
So when it comes to the constitutionality of the banning a assault weapon, you can look up a case called Colby versus Hogan. I think this is the most recent one that upheld a Maryland ban on assault weapons that included the AR-15.
Well, I will say that the Supreme. Okay, what did you say? Did you say like it was Maryland court or what?
It's the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Well, I will say that the courts are not always correct in their interpretation of things.
Sure, but until somebody overrules them, that is the interpretation. That's where the law stands, right? Like if the Supreme Court overturns it, then guess what? It's unconstitutional to ban AR-15s. But so thus far, this is case law, and it hasn't been overturned.
Doesn't mean that it shouldn't. It doesn't mean that it by the actual interpretation of the Second Amendment that that it doesn't go against the Second Amendment, or at least the spirit of the Second Amendment. Because as far as I know, according to the 10th Amendment and the Commerce, I think it's the Commerce Clause, states have more powers on what they can legislate on than the federal government does.
Yeah,
in other words, they can like be more legislatively restrictive when it comes to guns than what the federal government can, because the federal government. Okay, I'm kind of fumbling over my own words here, but basically, I believe in like states' rights, and I believe that the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, as what I remember it being interpreted as, and the Commerce Clause validates states' rights to legislate more on issues, to have more flexibility on what they can legislate on than what the federal government can.
I'm just curious. Why don't you apply the same standard with regard to like this strict constitutional interpretation to abortion?
Well, I haven't actually read Roe v. Wade of what the justification is under it for abortion. What the what 70 some odd pages or whatever of Roe v. Wade?
It's I don't give you the opinion. I mean, the justification was privacy. The Constitution, does the Constitution give you a right to privacy, or is your right to privacy only limited to what the Constitution explicitly says? Because healthcare is a private matter, right? Medical procedures between you and your doctor are private matters.
I mean, again, it still doesn't mean that the right to life by innocent party is invalidated automatically.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you apply the same logic? See, you wouldn't apply the same logic to the Second Amendment, right? If we tried to ban guns because the right to life for a third party shouldn't be invalidated automatically, and guns can invalidate that right to life, right, you'd reject that as an argument.
That's why we have like a murder with a gun illegal. I mean, the ownership of a gun doesn't automatically mean that somebody is going to die from it. I can own, in fact, I do own a gun myself. Doesn't mean that my neighbors automatically die from just me merely owning it.
Oh, that's cool. Sorry,
I mean, just as an example. I mean, there's a difference between owning a gun and using it to actually violate someone else's rights. It doesn't violate anyone else's rights just for merely owning the gun.
The argument is, if you're going to ban abortion, you're always violating somebody's rights. You're violating the right of the mother and her right to privacy.
And in the abortion, she's violating the right of the unborn baby to life.
Well, Supreme Court said that an unborn baby doesn't have a right to life, at least not until it's viable.
Not till it's viable. So basically 20-week or 21-week babies, you're not allowed to abort under the Supreme Court.
25, I believe, was the number they put it at. But yeah.
Okay. And like I also said earlier, the Supreme Court is not the end all be all, but
they are. That's the last stop on your court. There's no court above them. Once you hit the Supreme Court and they say something, that's what it is.
That almost seems to be slightly an appeal to law, almost.
We're talking about the law, right? Isn't that who we have to go to interpret these things?
We're talking about whether or not the law should be like consistently applied, and I don't know. I'm tired.
Okay.
I guess we'll just end this stream here soon. I don't have hardly any more questions.
Okay. I hope I didn't like piss you off or something.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm just tired is the main thing, and got work in the morning.
Gotcha. Yep.
So, anyway, Liberal Sanity Project, is there anything that you want to say to the audience and whatnot before we close out?
Yeah, to all 361 subscribers to the Dark Conservatarian, unsubscribe from this scrub. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Subscribe to me. I'm a pro.
To all of my subscribers, do not unsubscribe from me unless you actually find me unentertaining and uninformative and unsubstantive. I mean, like, legitimately so. Do not just... I get
the last word.
Well, but go ahead and subscribe. I did not say you get the last word. I just said that you get a closing statement.
Yeah, I got you. All right. You guys can stay subscribed because he got me. I screwed up.
Yeah, please stay subscribed. But at the same time, also go ahead and check out Liberal Sanity Project. If you hate the alt-right, well, then you'll love Liberal Sanity Project. So, anyway, to everybody watching, hope to see you all later. And obviously, I'll be doing more of these interviews with more interesting people that I find to talk to. And see you all later. Good night, and God bless.